Wow, this is the new Fujifilm X-T5 camera. And boy, am I excited to talk about it. I think the Fujifilm X-T4 was a beloved APS-C camera. And I think we're all really excited with what Fujifilm has done this year, dropping their XH2S, their XH2, despite how difficult they are to say, and now a photographer-focused X-T5 model that can still carry its own weight in video. Let's break down what makes this such an exciting new camera for Fujifilm and APS-C camera users everywhere, and we'll see who this is right for. Let's get into it. Let me start this video by saying thank you to Fujifilm for sending us a model of their X-T5. This is a pre-production model, and with this video dropping on the day that the actual model is going to be announced, we can't show you any photos or video we've taken yet with the camera as of right now, but this video is just gonna focus on what new things that this camera brings to the table in terms of build and in terms of ability. So let's start there with build. The first thing that's really noticeable about the X-T5 is how similar it looks to the X-T4, and I don't think anyone's gonna have any complaints there. I think that's a really edgy, cool, vintage looking camera, especially the chrome model. I'm a little sad they didn't send us the chrome version. The black is cool too. The main difference you will notice between the X-T5 and the X-T4 is the weight. The X-T5 is around 557 grams, weighing 50 grams lighter than the X-T4, making it an even more portable and lightweight camera for users. I think especially for APS-C users, lightweight and portability are a really important aspect for a camera to have. You're already making that decision to go APS-C over something like medium format or full frame because A, the lenses are usually much lighter and the cameras themselves are lighter. So having Fujifilm invest even further into building a more lightweight model is pretty fun. The next most notable part of the X-T5's build is going to be the screen. Well, they've changed the X-T4 from the flip out screen you had in the past now to the 3-axis tilt screen that they have on the X-T5 model, which I believe is about 3 inches in size. I don't think many people will complain about the shift, although it could be a somewhat divisive subject. I think ultimately that people don't like the tilt out screen because it tends to get in the way of their ports, such as the HDMI port and their audio jack. So with a 3-axis screen, you just have more ability to access these side ports on the camera. But for photographers, I'm curious to see what you think about having a 3-axis versus a tilt screen. It's always an interesting subject for me. Aside from the tilt aspect of the screens, what you will notice that's really great about the X-T5 versus the X-T4 is that resolution on the screen and in the viewfinder. The viewfinder has 3.69 million dots, and it is such a noticeable difference between the X-T4 model, especially comparing it in real time with the X-T4 as I was using them side by side. The difference was so noticeable, and the X-T5's view was really refreshing. So I really like that upgrade that Fujifilm has made. Now again, aside from those two major things, you won't notice a tremendous difference between the build. You still have your straps on the side. As for ports, you are gonna have your mic jack on the side, and then you're also gonna have a USB-C port and a mini HDMI port. So you're not gonna get a full-size HDMI port in this, which I think is probably a curious decision, although I know this is definitely more of a photographer-focused camera rather than someone who might need a monitor for videography. As for your SD ports, you do have 2 slots, with slot 1 being on the bottom and slot 2 being on the top. All right, so now that we've gotten the build of the camera out of the way, let's get into what I think are the more important specifications of this camera. And that's really what it can do for you as a photographer and as a videographer. And I might have to bury the lead here and talk about what I think is really the most exciting improvement of this camera compared to the X-T4. And that's a pretty drastic shift in megapixels. Going from the 26 megapixel sensor of the X-T4, the X-T5 now shoots 40.2 megapixels. With the X-Trans5 HR sensor now on this camera, the megapixel quality has taken a big leap forward. So if you're a photographer who used the X-T4 and you were happy with those 26 megapixels, you're going to be ecstatic with this 40.2 megapixel powerhouse. And having gotten to take this camera out and taken some pre-photos with it, I gotta say, can't show you yet, but in this next video, zooming in on those photos, being able to recrop, especially shooting really wide in a place like Central Park, having those added megapixels really came in handy. In addition to an improved megapixel count, the X-T5 can also shoot up to 15 frames per second through its mechanical shutter. That ability, in tandem with really quality autofocus tracking within the camera, means you can get really high speed action shots up to 15 frames, which was awesome with this camera. It doesn't quite make it the speed demon that the X series is with that stacked sensor, but for a 40 megapixel camera, those 15 frames with great autofocus tracking is pretty superb. Another really interesting feature that Fujifilm has included with this X-T5 camera is the new pixel shift multi-shot mode. Essentially, in this mode, you're able to take, with the press of one shutter button, 20 separate frames. That's going to create one really high quality photo. Fujifilm was able to achieve this by using their new IBIS system that's going to essentially precisely control the camera sensor so that you can shoot up to those 20 shots. That's going to then combine to one really high quality photo, which is such an interesting feature that this camera has, and one that's going to be really great for someone like an architectural or interior photographer that really likes to stack those images to create one high quality image. This new IBIS system is going to help photographies, but it's also going to help videographers as well, as you're going to get a lot better in-body stabilization control just through the camera alone, even in low light situations. So yes, while I was just talking a lot about the stills features of this camera, and it is a stills focused camera, it can still do some really powerful stuff for videographers as well. It might not stack up really to the focus that their X series has focused on in terms of videography features, but it's going to come into a pretty close second, especially if you're a stills enthusiast who wants to shoot videos. Some of the things I'm most impressed about with this camera and what it can do for its video capabilities is shoot in that 422 10-bit color space, which is really going to keep it up to speed with what your modern cameras are able to do these days. Right off the bat, you're going to get great image quality with that 422 10-bit, but it can also shoot up to, I believe, 13 stops of dynamic range in, more importantly, their f-log2 shooting mode. As you know, with the X-T4, it's able to shoot f-log, and that's how you're going to get the most dynamic range out of your camera. But if you've gone up to their XH2S series of cameras, it can obviously shoot f-log2 now. Now the X-T5 can shoot f-log2, giving you even more dynamic range in your camera, producing a really beautiful image quality. What it does lack is that 4K 120 frame per second ability, but really it makes up for it because it can shoot in that 6.2K 30 frames per second. It can also externally shoot ProRes and B-RAW like the XH2S can as well. This makes it a really powerful video camera on top of really being a stills camera first and foremost. So what do you get when you purchase the X-T5? Well, for a more affordable price range than the XH2S, where you might lack some video capabilities and speed of that camera, it's going to make up for it with a higher megapixel count on this camera, improved IBIS, and a familiar build that the X-T4 had, only 50 grams lighter. This makes it an invaluable camera for APS users and still users that also want the ability to shoot high quality video in that 422 10-bit color space. And let's not forget, it still has all of the features that we love out of Fujifilm cameras. You're still able to choose between a lot of those film presets within the camera. You can set your own grain amounts. All the fun things that Fujifilm was able to do in that X-T4 has transferred over to a more powerful, lighter weight X-T5 model. So if you loved your X-T4, you can pretty much pick this up for the same price range as what you got your X-T4 for, however many years ago that camera came out. I believe you're going to be able to purchase this X-T5 camera in either black or silver for around $1,700, making it a really great option for any user. Now, I've been shooting with the X-T5 for the past 2 weeks because Fujifilm has not only sent us the X-T5 camera, but they've sent us their new 30mm macro lens along with it. Sigma has also sent us a new X-mount lens that they're coming out with. So we have a lot of Fujifilm content coming in the future, and I'm going to be able to show you more hands-on footage, both photography and video-wise, with this new camera, with their new lens, and with a few other lenses as well in the coming weeks. So I'm really excited to have those videos come out in the weeks to come. As always, please let me know if you have any questions regarding the X-T5 in the comments below and what you might want to see in the videos coming out in the future as I start to edit and continue to shoot them. I'm really excited for this camera and to continue to get to use it, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Consider leaving a like and subscribing to our channel for more, and as always, have a great week ahead.